My roommate secretly broke into my locked room at 3 a.m. to film my boyfriend and me sleeping, hid cameras in my vents, reported fake episodes to my parents, and after I vanished 18 months ago, campus security just discovered her living in the basement with a 200-page plan to stage my death and a disturbing shrine of our photos. This isn't just a story about a bad breakup. It's about how the person who should have been my safe haven became my living nightmare. I thought I had everything figured out, but my own roommate slowly, terrifyingly tried to steal my life. I'd finally found it. My first real, truly good relationship. Will and I had been together for about 6 months, and even though we went to different colleges a couple hours apart, we made it work. He'd usually come to me, bless his heart, since he had a car and my place was just nicer. My roommates, including Cass, were totally cool with him staying 4 or 5 days at a time. Will was genuinely amazing, always helpful, washing dishes, making breakfast, just a really sweet guy. But around late September, something shifted. My roommate Cass got dumped, and after that, she started acting weird around Will, like really weird. He'd cook for me sometimes when I was swamped, and he'd always make extra for everyone. Almost every single time, Cass would chime in, "Oh, he's so sweet. I wish I had someone like him. My ex would never." Will and I would try to reassure her, say she'd find someone great, but she'd just stare at him with this strange, expectant look. Expecting what? I had no idea. When Will did anything vaguely manly, taking out the trash, fixing something, moving furniture, Cass would conveniently wander over, lingering, gushing about how strong he was, how lucky I was to have such a fit partner. It started to feel less like compliments and more like assessment. Honestly, we couldn't escape her. If Will and I tried to go out, she'd immediately ask to come along. My roommates and I used a location-sharing app for safety. And if I went out with Will and didn't explicitly tell her, she'd text me instantly. "Where are you? What are your plans? Want to hang out?" We'd try to hide away in my room, but if Will so much as stepped into the kitchen, Cass would magically appear. It got so bad we had to lock my bedroom door at night when we slept, just to make sure she wouldn't come in. Then came the midterms party. I'm a lightweight, so I got sloshed fast. At some point, I called Will. When Cass found out, she turned into a different person. "Is that Will?" she demanded, aggressively ripping the phone out of my hand. She's way stronger than me. Then she just started yelling into the phone about her intimate life, asking Will about his, saying gross things like, "Make sure you hit it deep." Cass claims she enjoys making people uncomfortable, but this felt different. She was only tipsy, not drunk, and my boyfriend was on the line. It was beyond inappropriate. Anytime Will was nice to her, she'd giggle, "Ha ha ha, it's almost like you're my boyfriend." And to me, she'd call him our boyfriend, like a joke. But it wasn't funny. Will found it incredibly uncomfortable, always trying to avoid her or shut her down. I knew I needed to talk to her, but every time I tried, my throat would close up. I just chickened out. My birthday weekend arrived, and I was determined to make it special. Cass-free. Will got to my place Friday afternoon while I was still in class. When I walked in, there he was in the kitchen, making my favorite pasta. And of course, Cass was perched on the counter, swinging her legs, chatting him up. "There's the birthday girl." Will's face lit up when he saw me, and he abandoned the stove to give me a hug and a kiss. That's when Cass made a loud gagging noise. "Get a room, you two," she said, then added, "Actually, don't. I like watching our boyfriend cook." Will's jaw clenched, but he just turned back to the stove. I grabbed plates, trying to ignore the way Cass was staring at Will's back. "So what are the birthday plans?" she asked, hopping off the counter. "Actually," I said quickly, "Will and I already have plans, just the two of us." Her face fell for a second, then snapped back into a forced smile. "Oh, come on, it's your birthday. You need your girls with you. Plus, Will probably wants a break from just hanging with you all the time." "I really don't," Will said flatly without even turning around. The kitchen went dead quiet. Cass's smile turned brittle. "Well, aren't you two just perfect for each other?" she said, her voice dripping, with something I couldn't quite identify. Then she stalked out. That night, Will and I tried to salvage the evening at a nice downtown restaurant. We were halfway through appetizers when my phone started buzzing. Cass, nonstop texts. "Where are you guys? I can see you're at Rosario's. That's so close to my gym. I'm heading there now. What a coincidence." "Save me a seat." I showed Will the messages. His face darkened. "She's tracking you again." Before I could even reply, Cass walked right through the restaurant door. She was dressed up, clearly put together, and she spotted us immediately, waving enthusiastically. "What a coincidence," she said loudly, approaching our table. "I was just walking by and saw you through the window." "Cass, we're on a date," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "Oh, I know. I just wanted to say hi." But instead of leaving, she pulled up a chair from a nearby empty table. "This place is so romantic. Perfect for our boyfriend to take you." Will put down his fork. "Cass, you need to stop calling me that." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "It's just a joke. God, you two are so serious." "Fine. I'll leave you lovebirds alone." She stood up, but then leaned down, close to Will. "You look really good tonight, by the way." After she left, neither of us had much appetite. We got our food to go and headed back. The apartment was quiet. We settled into my room to watch a movie, making sure to lock the door. About an hour in, there was a knock. "Hey, are you guys awake?" Cass's voice came through the door. "I brought wine to apologize." "We're trying to sleep," I called back, even though it was only 10 p.m. "Oh, come on. I said I was sorry. Will, don't you think she's being a little dramatic?" Will got up and went to the door but didn't open it. "Cass, we're going to bed. Please leave us alone." Silence. Then her footsteps retreated. Will came back to bed, but I could tell he was tense. "This is getting out of hand," he said quietly. I knew he was right. I just didn't know what to do. The next morning, I woke before Will and decided to make us breakfast. I slipped out quietly, but Cass was already in the kitchen. "Morning," she said brightly. "Making breakfast for the boyfriend?" "My boyfriend," I corrected. She rolled her eyes. "Obviously. Hey, is Will awake? I wanted to ask him something about my car. Tyler knows about cars, right?" "His name is Will," I snapped, my patience wearing thin. "And no, he's sleeping." "I'll just peek in and see if he's up," she said, moving towards my room. I blocked her path. "Cass, stop. This isn't funny anymore." Her expression hardened. "What isn't funny?" "This whole thing with Will, the comments, our boyfriend jokes, following us around, it needs to stop." She crossed her arms. "I'm just being friendly. Sorry if that's a crime now." "You know it's more than that." "Do I? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're being possessive and paranoid. I live here too, you know. I'm allowed to exist in common spaces when your boyfriend is here." Before I could respond, Will emerged from my room, still in his pajamas. Cass's demeanor immediately changed. "Will, perfect timing. My car is making this weird noise, and I was wondering if you could take a look." Will glanced at me, then back at Cass. "I'm not really a car person. You should take it to a mechanic." "But you fixed Maya's bike that one time," Cass pressed. "That was just a loose chain. Completely different." Cass pouted. "Fine. I guess I'll just have to find another strong, helpful man to assist me." She flounced out, leaving us alone. Will pulled me into a hug. "We need to figure something out," he murmured into my hair. "I don't feel comfortable here anymore." That afternoon, while Cass was at work, I talked to Jenna, our other roommate. She'd been pretty neutral, but I needed to know if I was overreacting. "Honestly," Jenna said, "I've noticed it too. The other night when you were at the library, Will was here waiting for you, and Cass literally sat next to him on the couch and tried to get him to watch a movie with her. He kept saying he was fine, just reading, but she wouldn't take the hint." My stomach dropped. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I figured Will would mention it, plus I didn't want to get in the middle of roommate drama. But yeah, it's weird. And our boyfriend thing? Super uncomfortable." That evening was my actual birthday. Will had planned a special dinner at my apartment. Jenna agreed to go out for privacy, but Cass planted herself at the dining table as Will set out the food. "This smells amazing," she said. "You're such a good cook, Will. Maya's so lucky." "Thanks," Will said shortly, "but this is actually a private dinner." Cass's eyes widened innocently. "Oh, I wasn't inviting myself. I just wanted to grab a snack." She stood up slowly, stretching dramatically. "Although, it seems a shame to waste all this food on just 2 people." "We'll manage," I said. She shrugged and grabbed an apple. As she passed Will, she put her hand on his shoulder. "Happy birthday to your girlfriend," she said, squeezing slightly before walking away. Will watched her go with a frown. Did she just emphasize, your girlfriend? The dinner was delicious, but the mood was off. We could hear Cass moving around, playing music just loud enough to be noticeable. At one point, she came back for water and lingered, commenting on how romantic everything looked. That night, we double-checked the lock on my bedroom door before going to sleep, Around 3:00 a.m., I woke up to use the bathroom. When I came back, Will was sitting up in bed, looking unsettled. "What's wrong?" I whispered. "I thought I heard someone try the door handle," he said quietly. My blood ran cold. We both sat there, listening, but everything was quiet. Eventually, we lay back down, but neither of us slept well. The next morning, Sunday, Will's last day, I woke to find him staring at the ceiling. "Morning," I said, snuggling closer. He kissed my forehead. "Morning. Hey, I need to tell you something." My heart sank. "What?" "Friday night, when you were in the shower, Cass cornered me in the kitchen. She was asking all these personal questions about our relationship, like really personal, about our intimate life." I sat up. "What? Why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't want to ruin your birthday weekend, but Maya, she was hammered and she got really close to me, like uncomfortably close. When I tried to step away, she said I was being uptight and that she was just curious about what you were getting, that she wasn't. I felt sick. This had gone too far. I think we need to talk to her. Together. Set clear boundaries." I agreed, but I was dreading it. We got dressed and found Cass on the couch. "Cass, we need to talk," I said. She looked up, her expression immediately defensive. "About what?" "About your behavior toward Will," I said, sitting across from her. Will remained standing, arms crossed. Cass rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, not this again." "Yes, this again," Will said firmly. "The comments, the touching, the personal questions. It stops now." "Touching?" Cass scoffed. "I've barely laid a finger on you. You squeezed my shoulder last night. You got in my personal space on Friday. You've made multiple inappropriate comments about our relationship," Will listed calmly. Cass's face flushed. "You're being dramatic. I'm just friendly. Sorry if you're not used to that." "There's friendly, and then there's what you're doing," I said. "Calling him our boyfriend isn't friendly. It's weird and possessive." "It's a joke," Cass said loudly. "God, you two really are perfect for each other, both completely humorless." "It's not funny when it makes us uncomfortable," I insisted. Cass stood up abruptly. "You know what? Fine. I'll stop being friendly. I'll stop acknowledging your boyfriend exists. Happy?" "That's not what we're asking," I started, but she cut me off. "No, I get it. You're so insecure about your relationship that you can't handle me being nice to him, even though I've been nothing but supportive of you two." "Supportive?" Will said incredulously. "You tried to ask me about our sex life." Cass's face went bright red. "I was hammered and I was curious. Sue me for wondering what it's like to have a boyfriend who actually gives a shit." The room went quiet. Cass's eyes filled with tears. "That's what this is about, isn't it?" she said, her voice cracking. "You get to be happy. You get the perfect boyfriend who cooks and helps around the house and looks at you like you hung the moon. And I get dumped and have to watch you two be disgustingly in love all the time." "Cass, I'm sorry you're hurting, but save it," she snapped, wiping her eyes. "I'll leave your precious boyfriend alone. Wouldn't want to threaten your perfect, relationship." She stormed off to her room, slamming the door. Will and I looked at each other. "Well, that went well," he said dryly. The rest of the day was tense. Cass didn't come out of her room, and when Will left that evening, she didn't say goodbye. I walked him to his car, feeling drained. "I'm sorry this weekend was so weird," I said. He pulled me into a hug. "It's not your fault. But Maya, I meant what I said. I don't feel comfortable staying here anymore if she's going to act like this." "I know," I said. "I'll figure something out." But as I watched him drive away, I had no idea what that something would be. I couldn't afford to move out, and neither could Cass. I was stuck living with someone who had developed an unhealthy fixation on my boyfriend, and I didn't know how to fix it. When I got back inside, Jenna was in the kitchen. "I heard the fight," she said quietly. "For what it's worth, I think you were right to say something. She's been getting worse." "What do you mean?" Jenna hesitated. "I didn't want to say anything before, but she talks about Will a lot when you're not here, like a lot. She saved pictures of him from your social media, and the other day I caught her smelling his hoodie that you left in the living room." I stared at her in horror. "What?" "Yeah, it's not normal. I think she's developed some kind of obsession." I sank into a kitchen chair, putting my head in my hands. My first real relationship, and it was being threatened by my own roommate. I had no idea what to do next, but I knew something had to change. This couldn't continue. The following Monday morning, I woke to find a note slid under my bedroom door, in Cass's handwriting. It read, "I'm sorry about yesterday. Can we talk?" I found her in the kitchen, looking genuinely remorseful. She'd made coffee. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began as I sat down cautiously. "You're right. I've been inappropriate. I think I've just been so lonely since the breakup, and seeing you and Will so happy, it made me act stupid." Relief washed over me. "I understand that, Cass. Breakups are hard. I promise I'll respect your boundaries from now on," she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. "No more jokes. No more weirdness. I value our friendship too much." For the next few days, things seemed better. Cass kept her distance, was polite but not overly friendly, and didn't mention Will at all. I started to relax, thinking maybe the confrontation had actually worked. That Thursday, I came home from a late lab session to find Cass and Jenna in the living room with a bottle of wine and Chinese takeout. "We ordered extra if you want some," Jenna offered. I was exhausted but hungry, so I joined them. We watched a comedy special, and for the first time in weeks, it felt like normal roommate bonding. Cass was funny and charming, reminding me why we'd become friends in the first place. "I've actually started seeing someone," Cass mentioned casually during a commercial break. "Really? That's great," I said, genuinely happy for her. "Yeah, we matched on a dating app. He's really sweet, actually. Reminds me a bit of Will. Very considerate, you know." I felt a tiny prickle of unease, but pushed it down. She was allowed to date someone similar to Will. "What's his name?" Jenna asked. "Chris," Cass said, pulling out her phone. "Want to see a picture?" She showed us a photo of a good-looking guy with dark hair. He did look vaguely like Will, but I told myself I was being paranoid. Over the next week, Cass seemed happier. She went on several dates with Chris, came home glowing, and even apologized again for her past behavior. "I think I was just projecting my loneliness onto your relationship," she said one evening. "Chris is helping me realize I need my own happiness, not someone else's." I felt relieved and called Will that night to update him. "That's good," he said, though he sounded cautious. "Just keep being careful, okay?" "I will," I promised. The next time Will visited was 2 weeks later. I'd warned him that Cass was supposedly reformed, but he was still wary. When he arrived Thursday evening, Cass was in her room video chatting with Chris. She came out briefly, said hello, was perfectly polite, then returned to her call. "See?" I said to Will. "Much better." Friday passed without incident. Cass left early for work and texted that she'd be out with Chris that evening. Will and I had the apartment mostly to ourselves. Saturday morning, I woke up to find Will already awake, frowning at his phone. "What's wrong?" I asked sleepily. "It's probably nothing," he said slowly. "But I just got a weird Instagram follow request. The account has no posts, no profile picture, and it's called Watching You Always 22. A chill ran down my spine. "Block it," I said immediately. He did, but we both felt unsettled. An hour later, while we were making breakfast, his phone buzzed with another request. This time the username was "You Deserve Better, Maya." "Okay, that's creepy," I said, looking at the screen. Will blocked that one too, but throughout the day, more requests came through. Each username was increasingly unsettling. "She's not enough." "For you? Perfect boyfriend wasted? I would do it better." "Should we call the police?" I asked, feeling genuinely scared. "And say what? Someone sending Instagram requests?" Will said frustratedly. "They haven't technically threatened anything." That evening, Cass came home around 8 p.m. She seemed in good spirits, chattering about her date with Chris. "We went to that escape room place downtown," she said, settling on the couch. "He's so smart, figured out most of the puzzles. Reminded me of how Will fixed that kitchen cabinet last month." Will and I exchanged glances. "Speaking of," Cass continued, "Chris's car broke down today. I don't suppose you know anything about cars, Will?" "I already told you I don't," Will said firmly. Right, just thought I'd ask." She smiled sweetly. "Well, I'm exhausted. Night, guys." After she went to her room, I turned to Will. "Did that seem weird to you?" "Everything about this seems weird," he muttered. That night, we made sure to lock my door as always. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to use the bathroom. The hallway was dark, but as I passed Cass's room, I could hear her talking quietly. I assumed she was on the phone with Chris, but something made me pause. I couldn't make out words, but her tone was strange, intense, and almost angry. I hurried to the bathroom and back to my room, making sure to lock the door behind me. Will stirred as I got back into bed. "Everything okay?" he mumbled. "Yeah," I whispered, but I lay awake for a long time after that. Sunday morning, Will's phone started buzzing with texts from an unknown number. The messages were disturbing. "She doesn't appreciate you. You cook and clean for someone who can't even protect you. I would never let anyone make you uncomfortable. You deserve someone who puts you first." Will showed me the messages, his face grim. "This has to be Cass." "But she's been better," I said weakly, even as doubt crept in. "And she's dating Chris now." "Maya, come on." The timing, the messages about cooking and cleaning, who else could it be? Before I could respond, there was a knock on my door. "Morning, lovebirds," Cass's cheerful voice called out. "I'm making pancakes if you want some." We looked at each other, unsure what to do. Finally, we got dressed and went to the kitchen. Cass was at the stove, humming and flipping pancakes. Jenna was already at the table, looking uncomfortable. "Perfect timing," Cass said brightly. "I wanted to thank you both for being so understanding about everything. I know I was weird before, but I'm really working on myself." She served us pancakes, chattering about her plans with Chris. Everything seemed normal, but I noticed Will barely touched his food. After breakfast, Will said he needed to leave early to work on a project. I walked him to his car, both of us tense. "I don't like leaving you here with her," he said. "I'll be fine. Jenna's here too," I assured him, though I wasn't sure I believed it myself. After he left, I went back inside to find Cass doing dishes. Jenna had retreated to her room. "Will seemed upset," Cass observed. "Is everything okay?" "Someone's been harassing him online," I said, watching her reaction carefully. Her eyes widened. "That's awful. What kind of harassment?" "Fake Instagram accounts, weird texts. They seem to know things about us." Cass dried her hands slowly. "That's so creepy. You should report it." "We might," I said. "It started yesterday." "Yesterday?" She frowned. "But I was with Chris all day yesterday. We didn't get back until evening." I noticed she'd immediately given herself an alibi without being accused of anything. That evening, Jenna pulled me aside in the hallway. "I need to tell you something," she whispered, glancing at Cass's door. "I don't think Chris exists." My blood ran cold. "What?" "I've never seen him. She's never brought him here. And yesterday, when she said she was at the escape room, I drove past there on my way to the library. Her car wasn't in the parking lot." "Maybe they took his car," I said weakly. "Maya, I also saw her at the coffee shop near campus when she was supposedly on her date. She was alone. On her laptop. I felt sick. We need to tell someone." "Tell them what? That she's lying about having a boyfriend? That's not illegal." That night, I barely slept. Every noise made me jump. Around 4:00 a.m., my phone lit up with a notification. Someone had tagged me in an Instagram story. The account was one of the fake ones Will had blocked. "You deserve better, Maya." With shaking hands, I opened it. It was a photo of Will's car parked outside our apartment, taken from what looked like Cass's bedroom window. The caption read, "He always leaves too soon. You can't even keep him for a full weekend." I screenshotted it before the story disappeared, and immediately texted Will. He was awake too, having received similar notifications. "That's it," he texted. "I'm calling the police." But when we tried to show them the evidence later that morning, the accounts had been deleted. The police officer seemed sympathetic, but said without concrete threats or proof of who was behind it, there wasn't much they could do. "Maybe install some security cameras," she suggested. "Document everything." That week was tense. I avoided Cass as much as possible, but she seemed to be everywhere. She'd appear in the kitchen when I was cooking, in the living room when I was studying, always with a friendly smile and casual conversation about Chris. "He's taking me to meet his parents this weekend," she mentioned Wednesday evening. "I'm so nervous." "That's fast," I managed. She laughed. "When you know, like you and Will." Thursday afternoon, I came home early from class with a migraine. The apartment was supposedly empty. Jenna had classes and Cass was at work. But as I passed Cass's room, I heard movement inside. I froze, then knocked. "Cass?" The movement stopped. Then, after a long pause, her door opened. She was in sweats, looking flustered. "Oh, Maya, I thought you had lab today." "I have a headache. Why aren't you at work?" "I called in sick," she said quickly. "Stomach bug. Must have been something I ate." Behind her, I could see her laptop open on her bed, multiple windows visible on the screen. Before I could see more, she shifted to block my view. "Well, I should rest," she said, already closing the door. "Feel better?" That evening, I told Jenna what happened. "I walked past her room earlier," Jenna said quietly. "She was talking to herself, not on the phone. Just talking. And Maya, I heard her say Will's name multiple times." My hands shook as I called Will that night. "I think you should stay away for a while," I said, explaining everything. "No," he said firmly. "I'm not letting her chase me away. I'm coming this weekend and we're going to figure this out." Friday arrived with a sense of dread. Will texted that he was on his way, and I spent the afternoon nervously cleaning. Cass emerged from her room around 4 p.m., dressed nicely. "Heading to Chris's parents' house," she announced. "I'll be gone all weekend. You two have fun." She left with an overnight bag, and I felt a wave of relief. Maybe we'd actually have a peaceful weekend. Will arrived an hour later, and I filled him in on everything. We decided to use the weekend to look for evidence of what Cass was really up to. "I feel bad snooping," I said as we stood outside her door. "She's stalking us, Maya. We need to protect ourselves." Her door was locked, which wasn't surprising, but Will noticed something odd. "Look at the door handle," he said. "Those are fresh scratches, like someone picked a lock recently." My blood ran cold, remembering the night I thought someone had tried our door. We were examining the scratches when we heard the front door open. Panic shot through me. Was Cass back already? But it was Jenna, looking shaken. "Guys," she said, breathlessly. "I just saw Cass's car at the Starbucks on 5th Street. She's just sitting there on her laptop." "So much for Chris's parents," Will muttered. We decided one of us should go see what she was doing. Will volunteered, but I didn't want him going alone. In the end, all three of us piled into Will's car. We parked across the street from the Starbucks. Through the window, we could see Cass at a corner table, intensely focused on her laptop. She had multiple devices spread out, her phone, what looked like a tablet, and another phone I didn't recognize. "Is she running multiple accounts?" Jenna whispered. We watched for about 10 minutes. Cass would type furiously on her laptop, then pick up one phone, then the other, then back to the laptop. At one point, she smiled at something on the screen in a way that made my skin crawl. "We should go," I said, feeling exposed. As we drove back, my phone started buzzing with Instagram notifications. The fake accounts were back, this time posting photos. Pictures of Will and me that I'd never seen before. Pictures taken from outside. Restaurants from across campus, even one that looked like it was taken from inside our apartment building's hallway. "She's been following us," Will said grimly, "for who knows how long." Back at the apartment, we huddled in my room, trying to figure out what to do. We had the screenshots, but the accounts kept disappearing and reappearing. The police had already said they couldn't do much without concrete evidence. "Maybe we should talk to the landlord," Jenna suggested. "This has to violate some kind of lease agreement." Before we could discuss it further, we heard the front door open. Cass was back. "Hello," she called out cheerfully. "Anyone home?" We stayed quiet, but she knocked on my door anyway. "I know you're in there," she sing-songed. "Will's car is outside." "We're busy, Cass," I called out. "Oh, I just wanted to let you know Chris's mom got sick, so we postponed the visit. I'll be here all weekend after all. Isn't that great?" Her footsteps retreated, but none of us relaxed. "She knows we know," Jenna whispered. That night, we ordered pizza and tried to pretend everything was normal. Cass joined us in the living room, chattering about Chris and his sick mother. She kept finding excuses to sit near Will, to accidentally brush against him when reaching for pizza, to laugh extra loud at his jokes. "So, Will," she said during a lull in conversation, "Maya tells me someone's been harassing you online. That's so scary." Will's jaw tightened. "Yeah, it is." "People can be so creepy," she continued, looking directly at him, hiding behind fake accounts, thinking they're anonymous, but nothing online is really anonymous, is it? The threat in her words was subtle, but clear. After dinner, we retreated to my room again. Will was visibly angry. "Now she's taunting us," he said. "She knows. We can't prove anything." Around midnight, I woke up to my phone vibrating, another Instagram notification. This time, it was a video. With dread, I opened it. It was footage of Will and me sleeping in my bed, taken from inside my room. I shook Will awake, showing him the video. His face went pale. "She's been in here," I whispered, while we were sleeping. We immediately checked the door. Still locked. The window was locked too. But somehow she'd been inside. That's it, Will said. We're not staying here. Tonight. We quickly packed bags, but as we prepared to leave, we found Cass sitting in the dark living room. Going somewhere? She asked calmly. We're leaving, Will said firmly, and we're calling the police. She laughed softly. And telling them what? That I allegedly made some Instagram accounts that you think I took a video but can't prove it? Because the account's already gone? She was right. The account had already vanished. I know what you're doing, I said, my voice shaking with anger. Do you? She stood up, moving closer. What am I doing, Maya? Being friendly? Supporting your relationship? Making sure you appreciate what you have? You're stalking us, Will said bluntly. Her expression hardened. That's a serious accusation. You could get in real trouble for spreading lies like that. Defamation, harassment. I'd hate for something like that to affect your college careers. The threat was clear. She'd thought this through. Just leave us alone, I pleaded. I've never bothered you, she said innocently. I've been nothing but nice. Ask anyone. Ask Jenna. I've been the perfect roommate, haven't I, Jenna? Jenna, who had emerged from her room at the commotion, looked terrified but nodded slightly. See? Cass smiled. You two are just paranoid. Maybe the stress of a long-distance relationship is getting to you. Those never last, you know. She walked past us toward her room, pausing at the hallway. Sweet dreams, she said softly. Don't worry, I'll keep an eye on things. After she closed her door, we stood frozen for a moment. Then Will grabbed my hand. We're still leaving, he said. We spent the night at a motel, barely sleeping. The next morning, we went to the campus housing office, but they said without concrete evidence of harassment or violence, they couldn't force someone to move. The best they could offer was to put me on a waiting list for a different room that could take months, the administrator said apologetically. We tried the police again, showing them everything we documented. This time, we got a different officer who took us more seriously. I can file a report, she said, but honestly, without proof she's behind the accounts or entered your room illegally, it's hard to take action. Has she made any direct threats? We had to admit she hadn't. Not explicitly. Keep documenting everything, the officer advised. If she escalates, we'll have a pattern of behavior to work with. That afternoon, defeated, we returned to the apartment. Cass was in the kitchen, baking cookies. There you are, she said brightly. I was worried when you didn't come home last night. I made snickerdoodles, Will's favorite, right? I'd mentioned once, months ago, that Will liked snickerdoodles. The fact that she remembered made my skin crawl. We need to talk, I said firmly. All of us, including Jenna. Cass sighed dramatically, but agreed. We all sat in the living room, the tension thick. Cass, I began. We know you're behind the Instagram accounts. We know you've been in my room. This needs to stop. She looked genuinely hurt. I can't believe you're accusing me of this after I've apologized. After I've been working on myself. After I've been nothing but supportive. Cut the act, Will interrupted. We saw you at Starbucks yesterday. You weren't at Chris's parents'. You were on your laptop with multiple phones. For just a second, something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe anger. Then her expression smoothed out. I was working, she said calmly. I do social media management on the side. Multiple accounts for different clients. Not that it's any of your business. It was a perfect excuse. Impossible to disprove. And Chris's parents? I pressed. Plans? Changed last minute. I didn't want to come back and bother you two, so I went to work at Starbucks. Is that a crime? Everything she said was plausible, reasonable. It made us look like the crazy ones. What about the video? Will demanded. Someone was in Maya's room last night. What video? Cass asked innocently. Do you have it? Can you show me? Of course we couldn't. It was gone. Jenna shifted uncomfortably. Cass, you have to admit some of your behavior has been concerning. Cass turned to her, eyes wide. Jenna, I thought we were friends. We are, but nothing. I've been going through a hard time. I've apologized. I've been working on myself, and this is what I get? Accusations, paranoia. She stood up, tears in her eyes. The performance was flawless. I can't live like this, she continued, being treated like a criminal in my own home. Maybe I should look for somewhere else to live. Maybe you should, Will said coldly. She looked at him, and for a moment, the mask slipped. Pure hatred flashed in her eyes before the tears returned. Fine, she said quietly. I'll start looking. But until then, we all have to live here. So maybe try not to make my life hell. She retreated to her room, leaving us sitting in stunned silence. That went well, Jenna said weakly. The rest of the weekend was unbearable. Cass stayed in her room mostly, but her presence was felt everywhere. Will and I couldn't relax, constantly checking over our shoulders, double-checking locks. Sunday evening, as Will prepared to leave, we stood by his car, both exhausted. I don't want to go, he said. I'm scared of what she might do when I'm not here. I'll be careful, I promised. Jenna's here. I'll keep my door locked. Maybe you should stay with a friend for a while, he suggested. I can't just abandon my apartment and my classes. Your safety is more important than convenience, he interrupted. I knew he was right, but I also felt angry. Why should I have to leave? My own home? After Will left, I found Jenna in the kitchen. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. The way she looked at Will. Maya, I think she's dangerous. What do we do? I asked helplessly. I don't know, Jenna said. But we need to stick together. And maybe we should look into her background, see if she's done this before. It was a good idea. That night, after making sure my door was locked and putting a chair against it for good measure, I started searching online. Cass had minimal social media presence, which now seemed suspicious. But I did find an old Facebook account from high school. Scrolling through, I found pictures of her with various friend groups. Then I noticed something odd. In her senior year, there were several posts about a friend named Victoria who had betrayed her. The posts were vague but intense, talking about trust and loyalty and people getting what they deserved. I searched for Victoria and found her profile. She'd gone to a different college, far from here. On impulse, I messaged her, explaining who I was and asking if she'd be willing to talk about Cass. Her response came quickly. Get away from her now. She's dangerous. My heart pounded as I typed back, asking for details. Victoria's story unfolded in a series of messages. In high school, she'd dated a guy Cass had a crush on. At first, Cass seemed supportive, but then strange things started happening. Victoria's boyfriend received anonymous messages saying Victoria was cheating. Victoria's car tires were slashed. Someone spread rumors about her online. It escalated until I was afraid to go to school, Victoria wrote. We could never prove it was her, but I knew. The way she'd smile at me in the halls. Eventually, her parents let her finish senior year online. I heard she told people I'd had a mental breakdown. I felt sick reading it. This wasn't Cass's first time. Please be careful. Victoria's last message read. She's smart. She knows how to make you look crazy while she plays the victim. I screenshotted everything and sent it to Will and Jenna. We had a pattern now. But would it be enough? The next morning, I woke to find a note under my door. I know you talked to Vicky. She always was a liar. Just like you're becoming. Terror shot through me. She'd been monitoring my online activity somehow. I was trapped in my own home with someone who was escalating by the day. That afternoon, I went to the campus counseling center, desperate for help. The counselor listened sympathetically but said without immediate danger, their options were limited. Have you considered mediation? She suggested. Sometimes roommate conflicts can be resolved through communication. I wanted to laugh or cry. Communication with someone who entered my room while I slept. That evening, I came home to find Cass cooking dinner, humming cheerfully. Made extra, she said without turning around. Thought we could eat together, clear the air. I'm not hungry, I said, heading for my room. You should eat, she called after me. You're looking thin. Will likes curves, doesn't he? I locked my door and called Will, telling him about the note and Victoria. That's it, he said. I'm coming back tonight. No, you have that exam tomorrow. I don't care. I'm not leaving you alone with her. But before he could leave, I heard commotion in the living room. Jenna was yelling. I rushed out to find Cass standing over Jenna, who was on the floor holding her wrist. She pushed me, Jenna cried. I just asked her to turn down her music. I didn't push anyone, Cass said calmly. She tripped. You saw her trip, right, Maya? I helped Jenna up. Her wrist was already swelling. We need to get you to the health center, I said. I'll drive. Cass offered sweetly. It's the least I can do after Jenna's accident. Stay away from us, I snapped. Her expression darkened. Fine, but when the landlord asks what happened, I'll have to tell him about Jenna's drinking problem. How she's been stumbling around hammered. Right, Jenna? The threat was clear. Jenna didn't have a drinking problem, but Cass would create one if needed. I drove Jenna to the health center myself. She had a sprained wrist, and the nurse asked how it happened. I fell, Jenna said quietly, glancing at me. We both knew Cass would only escalate things. That night, Will arrived despite my protests. He brought a baseball bat for protection, he said grimly. We barricaded ourselves in my room, but none of us slept. Every sound made us jump. Around 3:00 a.m., we heard footsteps in the hallway. They paused outside my door for a long moment before continuing. The next morning, we found all the photos of Will and me that I'd hung on the refrigerator were gone. In their place was a single note. You look better apart. I stared at the note, my hands trembling. Will took it from me and crumpled it into a ball. Pack your things, he said. You're not staying here another night. But I couldn't just leave. My name was on the lease, my stuff was here, and I had nowhere else to go. The dorms were full, and I couldn't afford a hotel indefinitely. We need a plan, I said, trying to think clearly despite the panic clawing at my chest. Jenna emerged from her room, her wrist wrapped in a bandage. My cousin is a lawyer, she said quietly. Maybe we should call her. While Jenna made the call, Will and I went through the apartment, documenting everything. We photographed the missing pictures, the note, even the scratches on Cass's door handle. Every few minutes, we'd hear movement from Cass's room, drawers opening, footsteps pacing. Jenna's cousin called back within an hour. She couldn't take our case officially, but gave us advice. Document everything, file a formal complaint with campus security, and consider getting a restraining order. The problem was proving Cass was behind everything. That afternoon, while Cass was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up with a text preview. Still on for tonight? Can't wait to see those pics you took. The toy. Sender's name was Chris. Will and I exchanged glances, so Chris did exist. But then who was texting about pictures? Before we could investigate further, Cass emerged from the bathroom. She snatched her phone, glancing at the screen with a small smile. Chris is so sweet, she said, though she was looking directly at Will when she said it. He's really interested in photography. I've been showing him some of my work. The implication hung heavy in the air. Those pictures of us. She'd been sharing them with someone. That evening I couldn't concentrate on anything. Every sound made me jump. When someone knocked on the door around 7:00 p.m., we all froze. It's probably just food delivery, Jenna said, but none of us moved. The knocking came again, harder this time. Then a male voice. Cass, you home? It's me. Cass practically ran to the door. A guy stood there, tall, lanky, nothing like the photo she'd shown us. This must be the real Chris. Hey, babe, she said loudly, pulling him inside. Everyone, this is Chris. Chris, these are my roommates. Chris looked uncomfortable, glancing between us. Hey. Cass, you said we were going out? Change of plans, she said, gripping his arm. I thought we'd hang here instead. Maya and her boyfriend were just leaving anyway. We live here, I said flatly. Chris shifted awkwardly. Maybe we should go, Cass? That restaurant you mentioned? No, she said sharply, then softened her tone. I mean, I already started cooking. It would be rude to leave now. She dragged him to the kitchen, chattering loudly about their relationship, but I noticed how he kept trying to check his phone, how he barely responded to her touches. This wasn't a boyfriend. This was some guy she'd convinced to come over. Will pulled me aside. We need to leave now. This is escalating. But as we headed to my room to pack, Cass called out, Oh, Will, Chris was asking about that pasta recipe you made, the one from Maya's birthday. Will stopped. I didn't tell you what I made. She smiled. You must have. How else would I know? The threat was subtle but clear. She'd been watching us even more closely than we'd realized. In my room, I threw clothes into a bag while Will called around looking for somewhere I could stay. But it was mid-semester, everyone's couches were taken, and the cheap motels were booked with traveling parents. My roommate said you could crash for maybe 2 nights, Will said, frustrated. But his girlfriend is visiting this weekend. Through the thin walls, we could hear Cass talking loudly to Chris, making sure we heard every word. She kept mentioning Will, how handy he was, how sweet, how lucky some people were. Chris barely got a word in. Around 9 p.m., we heard Chris leave. He mumbled something about an early morning, and Cass's attempts to make him stay sounded desperate. After the door closed, the apartment went eerily quiet. "She's going to do something," Jenna whispered, joining us in my room. "I can feel it." We decided to take shifts, staying awake. Will took first watch while Jenna and I tried to rest, but sleep was impossible. Every creak of the apartment made my heart race. Around midnight, Will shook me awake. "Someone's at the door," he whispered. We could hear the doorknob turning slowly. The lock held, but then came a soft scraping sound, like metal on metal. "She's picking the lock," Jenna breathed. Will grabbed the baseball bat. I fumbled for my phone, ready to call 911. The scraping continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Then it stopped. Footsteps retreated down the hallway. "Why didn't she finish?" I whispered. "Because she wanted us to know she could," Will said grimly. None of us slept the rest of the night. When dawn finally broke, we were exhausted but wired with adrenaline. I made coffee with shaking hands while Will checked the door. There were fresh scratches around the lock. "We're going to the police station," he said. "Right now." But Cass emerged from her room looking fresh and cheerful. "Morning. Rough night? You all look terrible." "Stay away from us," Will said. She tilted her head. "That's not very neighborly. We all have to live together, remember?" "Not for long," I said. "We're filing a restraining order." Her smile didn't waver. "Good luck with that. Hey, did you guys hear about that girl over in West Campus? Someone's been breaking into apartments, scary stuff. They say she's been making false accusations about her roommates to cover her tracks." The threat was crystal clear. She'd accuse us of being the stalkers if we tried to report her. We left anyway, driving to the police station with all our documentation. The officer we spoke to seemed sympathetic, but explained the reality. Without concrete proof Cass was behind the harassment, they couldn't do much. The scratches on the door could have been from previous tenants. The Instagram accounts were gone. The video was deleted. "Best we can do is increase patrols in your area," she said, "and you should consider moving." "I can't afford to break my lease," I said, feeling defeated. Back at the apartment, we found Cass in the living room with two other girls I didn't recognize. She was crying, telling them how her roommates were ganging up on her, making wild accusations, trying to force her out. "They even said I broke into their room," she sobbed. "Can you believe that? I've been nothing but nice." The girls shot us dirty looks as we passed. Cass had already started her campaign to turn people against us. That afternoon, things got worse. Will started getting calls from unknown numbers. When he answered, there was just breathing on the other end. My Instagram was flooded with follow requests from accounts with variations of his name. "Will loves me. Will deserves better. Maya can't keep him. Block and report," I said mechanically, but we both knew it was pointless. She'd just make more. Jenna had retreated to her boyfriend's place, too scared to stay. That left just Will and me in an apartment with someone who was clearly escalating. We pushed my dresser in front of the door and tried to figure out our next move. "Maybe I should talk to her," Will said suddenly. "Try to reason with her." "Absolutely not," I said. "That's what she wants." But we were running out of options. I couldn't stay at Will's indefinitely. It was too far from my classes and job. I couldn't afford to break the lease, and Cass had made it clear she wasn't going anywhere. That evening, while we were eating takeout in my barricaded room, we heard Cass on the phone in the hallway. Her voice was different. Not the fake sweetness she used around us, but cold and calculating. "No, it needs to look accidental," she said. "I don't care how much it costs." Will and I froze, straining to hear more. "She leaves for class at 8:30 every Monday and Wednesday. Parks in the same spot." A pause. "No, not him. Just her. He's not the problem." My blood turned to ice. Was she planning to hurt me? Will grabbed his phone to record, but Cass had already moved away. We couldn't make out anything else. "We're calling the police," Will said. "Right now." That was a direct threat. But when we tried to explain what we'd heard, it sounded paranoid even to my own ears. A partial conversation, with no context, no recording, no proof. The officer took notes but clearly thought we were overreacting. "Maybe she was talking about a surprise party," he suggested, "or a prank." That night, Will refused to leave. We pushed more furniture against the door and took turns keeping watch. Around 3:00 a.m. during my shift, I heard something that made my stomach drop. The sound of a key in the front door of the apartment. But Cass was in her room. I could hear her music playing. So who was coming in? Footsteps in the living room. Slow, deliberate. They paused outside my door. I shook Will awake, my heart hammering. He grabbed the bat while I dialed 911. Someone's in our apartment, I whispered to the dispatcher. The footsteps moved away toward the kitchen. We heard drawers opening, things being moved around. Police are on the way, the dispatcher said. Stay in your room and keep the door locked. But then we heard Cass's door open. Oh, you're here, she said brightly. Did you get everything? A muffled male voice responded. Perfect. Just leave. It on the counter. I'll take care of the rest tomorrow. The front door opened and closed. Cass's door shut. Everything went quiet. When the police arrived 10 minutes later, Cass answered the door in her pajamas, looking confused and sleepy. Officers? What's wrong? They explained about our call. Cass's eyes widened. Oh my God, that's so scary. I didn't hear anything. I had my headphones on. They searched the apartment but found nothing out of place. No signs of forced entry. No evidence anyone had been there. Your roommate says she didn't hear anything, one officer told us, and there's no sign of a break-in. She's lying, Willie said flatly. We heard her talking to someone. The officers exchanged glances. Have you considered that maybe you misheard? Stress can make people... We're not imagining this, I interrupted. But without evidence, they couldn't do anything. They filed a report and left, probably thinking we were paranoid college kids. After they'd gone, Cass knocked on our door. I'm so sorry you were scared, she called out. Maybe you should look into therapy. Paranoia can be really debilitating. Saturday morning, I discovered what the intruder had done. My laptop was on the kitchen counter, but I knew I'd left it in my room. When I opened it, my browser was open to apartment listings in other cities. My email was up, with a drafted message to my academic advisor about transferring schools. She's trying to make it look like I'm planning to leave, I told Will, feeling sick. Or she's showing us she has access to everything, he said. We spent the day at the library, afraid to be in the apartment, but we couldn't stay away forever. That evening, we returned to find Jenna packing her things. I'm sorry, she said, not meeting our eyes. I can't do this anymore. My boyfriend said I can stay with him. Jenna, please, I begged. We need to stick together. Against what? She said. Cass hasn't done anything to me, and honestly, the way you two are acting, maybe she's right. Maybe you are paranoid. I realized then what Cass had done. She'd isolated us, made us look crazy, turned even our ally against us. After Jenna left, the apartment felt oppressive. Cass was humming in the kitchen, making dinner as if nothing was wrong. The normalcy of it was somehow worse than the threats. We need a new plan, Will said quietly. But before we could discuss it, my phone rang. It was my mom. Honey, I just got the strangest call, she said. Someone saying they were concerned about you, that you've been acting erratic. My heart sank. Mom, that's not true. Who called you? They didn't give a name, just said they were a concerned friend. Maya, is everything okay? This person said you've been making accusations about your roommates, that you're paranoid. Mom, listen to me. My roommate is the one doing this. She's trying to make me look crazy. There was a pause. Sweetie, that sounds... Are you sure you're okay? Maybe you should come home for a bit. I realized how I sounded. The more I tried to explain, the crazier it seemed. Cass had thought of everything. After I hung up, Will was pale. She called my parents too, and my academic advisor, told them I've been missing classes to deal with my girlfriend's mental health crisis. We sat in stunned silence. She wasn't just trying to break us up. She was trying to destroy our lives. That night, we didn't even try to sleep. We sat up, making lists of everyone we needed to contact, trying to do damage control. But for every person we reached out to, it seemed Cass had already gotten there first. Sunday morning, Will got a text from his roommate. Dude, some girl called saying you've been stalking her, that you and your girlfriend are harassing her. What's going on? The tables had completely turned. Now we were the stalkers in everyone's eyes. I have to go back, Will said reluctantly. I need to fix this before it gets worse. Don't leave me here with her, I begged. Come with me, he said. We'll figure something out. But I had class the next morning, a presentation I couldn't miss, and if I started skipping, it would only make Cass's lies seem more believable. After Will left, I locked myself in my room, but I could hear Cass moving around the apartment, humming that same tune. Occasionally, she'd knock on my door. Maya, you okay in there? I'm worried about you. I didn't respond. I made soup. You should eat something. Still, nothing. Your mom called again? She's really concerned. Maybe you should talk to someone? Each knock, each fake concerned comment made my skin crawl. I was trapped in my own home with someone who was systematically destroying my life. That evening, I got an email from my academic advisor. She wanted to meet Monday morning to discuss my situation. The email mentioned concerning reports about my behavior. I tried calling Will, but his phone went straight to voicemail. Panic set in. What if something had happened to him on the drive back? Then I got a text from an unknown number. He made it back safe. Don't worry, I made sure of that. See? She'd been tracking him, watching him leave, making sure I knew she could get to him even 2 hours away. I spent Sunday night wide awake, chair against the door, jumping at every sound. When Monday morning came, I was exhausted but determined. I had to meet with my advisor, had to try to explain. But when I tried to leave my room, I found my door wouldn't open. Not locked. Jammed. Something was wedged under it from the outside. I pushed harder, panic rising. I was going to miss my meeting, which would only make things worse. Cass! I yelled. Let me out! No response. I called campus security, trying to stay calm. I'm trapped in my room. My roommate has jammed my door. They arrived 20 minutes later. By then, whatever had been blocking my door was gone. It opened easily, making me look like a liar. She was probably just vacuuming, the security officer suggested. The vacuum might have bumped your door. I missed my meeting. My advisor's follow-up email was terse, mentioning that missing appointments after concerning reports was troubling behavior. That afternoon, I found out the full extent of Cass's campaign. She'd contacted my lab supervisor saying I'd been having mental health issues. She'd reached out to classmates, saying she was worried about my paranoid behavior. She'd even found my high school friends on social media, expressing concern about my well-being. Everyone I knew was getting the same message. Maya was having a breakdown, making wild accusations, acting erratically. And the more I tried to defend myself, the crazier I looked. Will called that evening, his voice strained. My parents want me to break up with you. What? They think you're having some kind of crisis. They're worried you're going to drag me down with you. He paused. Maya, I know none of this is true, but she's making it impossible for us. That's what she wants, I said, tears streaming down my face. I know, but what do we do? She's 3 steps ahead of us. That night, I made a decision. I couldn't win this fight. Cass had outmaneuvered us at every turn. But maybe I could minimize the damage. I started recording everything on my phone, every interaction, every sound from the apartment. If she was going to destroy my reputation, I'd at least have evidence for later. Tuesday morning, I emerged from my room to find Cass at the kitchen table with a man in a suit. Oh, Maya, she said brightly. This is Mr. Peterson from campus. Counseling. He's here to check on you. The man stood, extending his hand. Miss Maya, I've received some concerning reports. I'm here to do a wellness check. I stared at Cass, who maintained her worried expression perfectly. I'm fine, I said, carefully. There's been a misunderstanding. That's good to hear, he said, but given the multiple reports, I'd like to chat for a few minutes. Standard procedure. I had no choice. As we talked, I could see Cass in the background, playing the concerned roommate perfectly. Every question he asked was loaded. When did I start feeling paranoid? Had I been sleeping? Eating? Was I taking any substances? I answered carefully, knowing that any sign of agitation would be used against me. But I could see in his eyes that he'd already made up his mind. I'd like to recommend you come in for a full evaluation, he said finally. Voluntarily, of course, but it might help address some of these concerns. After he left, Cass dropped her act. You should really take his advice, she said coldly. It would be better for everyone. You won't win, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it anymore. She smiled. Win what? I'm just a concerned roommate trying to help my friend through a difficult time. Ask anyone. That afternoon, I got a call from the housing office. Given the situation in my apartment, they were offering to let me break my lease without penalty if I moved out by the end of the week. It was what I wanted, but I knew it was also what Cass wanted. She'd won. She'd driven me out of my own home. Will drove back that evening, skipping his classes. We're getting you out of here, he said. I don't care what it takes. We spent the next 2 days packing my things while Cass watched from doorways, smiling. She'd stopped pretending to be nice. She knew she'd won. "It's a shame," she said as I packed my kitchen stuff. "We could have been such good friends, if only you'd been willing to share." I didn't respond. I just wanted out. On Thursday, as we loaded the last box into Will's car, Cass appeared with a small, wrapped gift. "For the road," she said sweetly. "No hard feelings." I took it without thinking, just wanting to leave. It wasn't until we were miles away that I opened it. Inside was a printed screenshot of a text conversation. The contact name was Will, but I knew it wasn't really him. The messages were explicit, talking about leaving me, about being with Cass instead. "She's still trying," Will said when I showed him, even now. But I just felt tired. Empty. She'd won, and we both knew it. I moved in with Will temporarily while looking for a new place. The damage to my reputation took months to repair. Some people never stopped believing I'd had some kind of breakdown. Jenna reached out once, apologizing for not believing us. She discovered Cass doing the same thing to a new roommate and finally understood. But by then, it was too late for her. The last I heard, Cass was still in that apartment cycling through roommates. Campus security had a file on her, but without concrete proof of crimes, she continued her pattern. Will and I stayed together, stronger for surviving her campaign. But sometimes I still wake up at night thinking I hear someone trying my door handle. Some victories come with permanent scars. I learned later that Victoria hadn't been Cass's only victim. There were others, roommates, friends, anyone who had something Cass wanted. She was smart, careful, and patient. She knew exactly how to destroy someone while looking like the victim. I kept all the documentation, all the screenshots, everything. Maybe someday it would help someone else. But for now, I just wanted to move forward. My new apartment has 3 locks on the door and security cameras. Will says I'm being paranoid, but he still double-checks the locks when he visits. Some lessons you never unlearn.